Libya has started voting for a new parliament today. It's an election that officials hope will ease the unrest in the country since the fall of Muammar Gaddafi 3 years ago. Participation is widely expected to be lower than it was in 2012 after the Election Commission tightened registration rules. Around 1.5 million voters have registered, roughly half the 2.8 million registered in July 2012 for Libya's first free election in more than 40 years. Officials say the country badly needs a functioning government and parliament.
Militants led by the al-Qaeda offshoot, the Islamic State in Iraq and the Levant, has threatened to break up the country 2.5 years after the withdrawal of U.S. troops. They attacked one of Iraq's largest air bases today, just as the first U.S. teams arrived. The U.S. forces are arriving to assess the Iraqi security forces and decide how to help counter the mounting Sunni insurgency. U.S. Secretary of State John Kerry has urged leaders of Iraq's autonomous Kurdish region to stand by Baghdad in the face of the attacks. The European Union deal that the Ukraine's former president Viktor Yanukovych had failed to sign is now due to be signed on Friday by the new president Petro Poroshenko. The previous president has crumbled under pressure from Moscow that set off months of protests, forcing him into exile and leading to new elections. The document is a sweeping economic and trade agreement with the European Union that aims at helping Ukraine's corrupt and underperforming economy. When the Soviet Union broke up in 1991, Ukraine and Poland were roughly equal economically. Poland joined the EU in 2004 and is now operating at 4 times the economic output of the Ukraine.
Russian lawmakers have revoked the right it had granted to President Vladimir Putin to send troops to the Ukraine as a military intervention in the crisis there. At Putin's request, lawmakers say his decision should be seen as an act of goodwill from Moscow to help aid peace efforts in the Ukraine. Moscow sees itself as the defender of the rights of the Russian-speaking minority in the Ukraine, and also confirmed the authority should be reinstated at short notice. For months now, Moscow has been faced with the international sanctions for its intervention in the Ukraine that many saw as illegal. Syria's al-Qaeda wing has pledged allegiance to rival group the Islamic State in Iraq and the Levant in a Syrian border town. This increases ISIL's control of both sides of the Syria-Iraq frontier. Fighters from the Nusra Front, the Syrian wing of al-Qaeda, took an oath of loyalty to ISIL in the town of Abu Kamal, close to the Iraqi border. The central leadership of al-Qaeda has disowned the ISIL and proclaimed the Nusra Front as its official Syrian affiliate. ISIL, which seized Iraq's main northern city Mosul earlier this month, has since marched virtually unopposed towards Baghdad and is in control of major border posts on the frontier with Syria.
Within days, Turkey's government is expected to present to the parliament a reform bill to advance its peace process with Kurdish militants. It's a move that may boost support for Prime Minister Tayyip Erdogan ahead of a presidential election in August. Deputy Prime Minister Basir Atalay says that the government had completed work on a legislative framework for the peace process and is seeking ministers' signatures for the bill. 8 people were hurt in northern Cairo when homemade explosive devices blew up at 4 metro stations and a courthouse this morning. It is the first attacks in Cairo since Abdel Fattah al-Sisi became president earlier this month. 3 people were slightly wounded when a device described by officials as primitive exploded at Shubra el-Khaima station in a northern district of Greater Cairo during morning rush hour. There was no immediate claim of responsibility. Egypt has been hit by a wave of violence, mainly by militants based in the Sinai Peninsula against security forces since the army ousted President Mohamed Morsi of the Muslim Brotherhood in July.
China has accused the Philippines of creating tension in their region and urged Manila to show sincerity in upholding stability. This as Philippines President Benigno Aquino welcomed Japan's more assertive military policy. Japanese Prime Minister Shinzo Abe made it clear he wanted an early agreement to ease constitutional curbs that have kept Japan's military from fighting abroad since World War II. Aquino said after meeting Abe that nations of goodwill can only benefit if the Japanese government is empowered to assist others.